Yes. Am I as you? Am I as I am as you are? Today's episode, I just want to touch upon the connection and correlation between feeling and mind and feeling. And I guess when these two things infuse, what comes about, what happens, what begins to happen, what begins to unfold. Um, Touch upon this real quick. Be a short video today. And of course, you know how we do things. Basically, go from line to line or doorway to doorway. In other words, and I'll open up lines and I'll just get the channel from here and build on it from that point forward. Okay. Okay. First doorway is you feel to identify. Everything becomes an identity to you. And the word identity is ID ENTITY, which is an id entity, which is basically an identified entity to you. So we fail to identify things. As we identify these things, we give an ID to it, an identification. And these things that we are giving an ID to, an identification to, in a way of understanding, since it's around us and amongst us and in company of us, we basically say it's an entity of some sort. So to feel is to identify, to give an identity to something, to give an identifying entity to something. So when we feel, this is why we feel things with our hands and with our sense, our instinct, and we identify things. And in identifying, give an identity to that. We give an ID entity, an entity and ID, an entity identification, or an identification of an entity amongst us. So this is what we feel, why we feel, and what happens when we feel things around us. Okay. You supposedly surround yourself with entities to make yourself feel like others are around you. So you don't feel alone, to make yourself seem as if you're in an experience with plenty to reach out to see, look at, discover, and explore. But the funny thing about this is the more you reach outward at things to discover and explore, the more you find out more about you and your own nature. So no matter how much you reach outward, simultaneously you're also reaching inward, which means that nothing is actually here around you or surrounding you. There's nothing else here. You are the only object and subject in existence, primarily, ultimately. It's like I said, we feel, we feel, and we feel, and we feel, and we feel, and we feel. And the more we do that, the more we create things into entities and give identifications to these things. And the more we do that, we're touching it, we're feeling it, and then we direct our attention to it. It's like I have to know what that is that I'm identifying. I have to know what that is. What is this thing? And this direction we direct towards these things. But spiritually, as you direct towards these things, a knowing or clicking happens in your mind where you start to redirect that directing outward and redirect it inward. Because the more you get to know about something, the more you get to know about where you're at, the more you get to know about what you are. So no matter how outward you are, you always have an inward going at the same time. Okay, that's what I want to make clear. And I was explaining that at that moment, okay? So you basically created a reality you placed yourself within, surrounded by things which pull you in its direction and pull you into its existence to redirect you from yourself and pull you from your own existence. You see, this is why relationships are a challenge, because you begin to get lost in the other or in another. And other besides yourself. And when that begins to happen, you begin to lose your mind and fall into your body. So you lose your mind, and now what you are falls into the body, thus becoming trapped inside the body, and the body's working, jealousy, madness, anger, frustration, especially without awareness of self, or awareness period, knowledge of self. So the more we interact physically and touch and feel somebody else or another or the other, the more, if our awareness is not present, the more we become lost in that other. And this thing that may transform into what you know as jealousy or obsession over somebody is actually a disguising of what is truly happening, which means that you are leaving your spirit. You're leaving your immediate location of self, and you're getting lost in another illusional location. Even though this person is a projection and a reflection of you, it's still not the true you. You are you right here and right now. You direct your attention to them, you touch them, you feel them, you're giving them an identification, you're giving them a reference to be an entity. The more you are with them, the more you discover and explore them, the more you become attached to them. The more you become attached to them, the more you detach from yourself. So when you get pissed off and mad and jealous and angry, want to fight and scream and yell and argue all day with this person or because of this person, that's just a human reflection of a spiritual projection. The spiritual projection is saying, you're leaving me. You're leaving us. You're getting lost in these things that you're feeling, touching, and coming in contact with, and you're losing knowledge of self. You're losing the importance of self, the relevance of self. So what am I going to do? I'm going to remain here, but since you're detaching from me, I'm going to make you more attached to the illusion. And as you become more attached to the illusion, you become susceptible to the illusions and its workings, which is of the brain. Insanity. Property. She's my territory, he's my property. She's mine, he's mine. That's my. You get lost in the actions, you get lost in the language, you get lost in the behavior, you get lost in the personality, you get lost in the identity. See? And that's why you become this identity, this personality, which actually doesn't truly exist. It's something that you created. And you created it in this situational example by getting lost in another entity. You getting lost in another entity, you lost your own identity. And this is what you call madness of the brain and the body, not the mind. See, so just be aware of how much you make contact with something, or touch something, or grasp something, or feel something. Because the more you feel, make contact, touch, and grasp that other or that another, without awareness being present, the more you raise the chance of getting lost in that other or another, which is truly not there to begin with and never was there. It's always been you, within you. You just projected out of these eyes and this energy, a reflection of yourself. And this energy took on a body. And that's truly what's really happening. Okay, so just be aware of that. Okay. Next line is, or next doorway is, what you feel is your real. What you feel is your real. Only what you can feel is real. I'll give the example of a woman standing on a line at the store purchasing a gallon of milk, if you were to say. Okay, a woman's online at the store purchasing a gallon of milk. Everything's going normal, it's a normal day. She got maybe 2 people behind her waiting, 2 people in front of her. She's in the middle. Supermarket store, songs going on, people are walking in and out, it's a regular day. Cashiers taking customers. All of a sudden, this woman just drops to the floor, spills a gallon of milk all over the floor, and then yells on the floor, "I'm on fire, I'm on fire, I'm on fire." The people around her, behind her, and in front of her turn around, they turn it at her, they see her on the floor, and they're looking at this woman, and they can see that she's clearly not on fire at all. So they think something's wrong with this woman. Okay, what's wrong? Something's wrong with this lady. She's not on fire. Why is she screaming out on fire for? So seconds pass. The lady starts to shake on the floor. After she begins to shake on the floor, you see smoke come off her skin. After you see smoke come off her skin starts to become red. And people are looking at this, witnessing this, saying, what is going on with this lady? She's not on fire. Why is she screaming she's on fire? Where's the smoke coming from? Where's all the stuff coming from? She begins to smoke. Her skin turns red. It starts to blister. Smoke's coming out of her mouth, her eyes, her nose. Her eyes become bloodshot. She begins to burn. People can look at this and say, what is going on? I can't believe my eyes. What is actually happening? This is an example of a woman who truly believes that she's on fire in her mind. So with something being held in place, the body will automatically become that reality, whether it's a real thing or not. This is why I say what you feel is your real. Only what you can feel is what is real. So yeah, she may not be on fire in reality, but if she's holding this in her mind in place and she begins to feel it, it is a real thing. And then she becomes it. So you have to understand that your body is a magic manifesting machine. This is magic. This is not a body. This is a magical suit with magical qualities. And magic just means something appearing out of nowhere to a place which is somewhere. Something appearing out of nowhere. Transformation, conversion. This body is a transforming, converting machine. Like I always say, why do you think you eat something and then you piss or shit that out something different? It doesn't come out the piss or the feces the same way you ate it and consumed it. It comes out in a different form, different color maybe, different texture. Because this is going through a transforming, converting process. Same thing goes with your mind. If you're holding something in place, the brain stores it, passes it down to the bloodstream, the blood starts to react and become the reality that the mind is holding in place from the created chemicals of the brain, passing it down into the body. And the heartbeat matching the template of the mind to bring that reality into existence. So, it's just something to be mindful about when you decide to feel something or what you think is real and ain't actually real. But if you decide to feel it, it will become your real, but it doesn't mean that it was your to begin with. That's the whole point. This goes for any kind of situation. And I mostly just touch upon relationship aspects because that is where people actually put themselves through the most hells within their mind. And then they hold something in place and they begin to feel something because they think that what they're imagining is actually real. And it becomes a real thing in the body because the chemical and the biology, the chemistry within the body starts to match the template of the mind and the big soup bowl, which is the brain, trickling this down into the bloodstream, changing the chemistry of your body, which is why you become an action. You start yelling, screaming, arguing. You become the action of the thought. Every thought seeks to become an action, like every idea seeks to become an invention. You're just something in the middle. You are the one that agrees and gives permission for things to be. Nothing can be without you. This is why I also say that control and discipline is also a important factor. You gotta have some type of control and discipline of self. You have to have knowledge of self. You have to be wise to the surroundings which surround you. You have to be wise to how the mind operates and how the brain functions and how the body functions as well. Because if you don't, you're just going to be lost forever within this vehicle. And you're going to be going through motions and becoming more and more reactive and compulsive rather than conscious and responsive and patient. If you feel something, let it be there for a minute. Don't necessarily act on it. It may just be a passing cloud. It's just a moment, maybe. Give it time before you address and confront the situation. Something to keep in mind and to keep in heart. Keep in mind. So it's basically turn your mind for you, not against you. Think of things that keep you clear-minded and clear-hearted and sane, and keep them in reoccurrence of itself. Start to train your mind in this way by way of pleasant experiences and imagination. And make this your own unique pattern of mind. Create your own catalog of feelings that constantly keeps your chemistry producing a formula of mutual harmony within you. A formula that doesn't distract you from your path or your calling. And carry out your mission with as least interference as possible. Especially your own illusionally created distractions and interferences. So, train your brain a certain way to bring about harmony, to have a clear mind, a clear heart. I'm not saying to be happy and joyful and blissful and bouncing around, laughing and giggling and enjoying life. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying just be clear-minded and clear-hearted as much as possible. With at least distractions and interferences as possible, especially the ones that you create for yourself. Stop being illusional and delusional. To be clear-minded and clear-hearted, and to be able to do that, is to always put yourself at a clear point of zero, of nothing. Only from nothing you can begin a new something. You can't begin a new something with an old something that you created from your pure nothing. Always resort back to your nothing if you feel that you are accumulating into something which is not of your benefit. You have to have access to that. How do I get access to that? First, you have to have awareness. Awareness promotes sanity. Sanity is your true savior. Sanity, sane, stable, silent. Think about those three S's. Sane, stable, silent. Or silent. Be silent at first if you feel something. Remain stable. Remain still for a minute. And that'll automatically turn into a certain kind of sane. You'll become sane after a while. You just keep practicing these three things. Or these two things that go into the one thing, which is sanity. Because what you're feeling, depending upon how many times you did this and what a strong cycle you've created that you can't even recognize and realize that you're going into these flip out stages. Depending on how many times you did that will determine how much control that you have when it occurs. Because it may just be a carousel of thoughts. It may just be a cycle that you got lost in. Some people get lost, some kids get lost in amusement parks, right? On the carousel. Jump on the carousel. Get off the carousel. Stop the cycle. So, what you feel is what is real, once again, but it doesn't mean that it was real to begin with, which means that your feelings that you are feeling may very well just be a program that is in constant run and you don't know where the stop button is at. With awareness of what is going on, that will automatically turn into a certain kind of sanity that is within you. Try being sane sometimes. Okay? Stop creating your illusional distractions and your interferences. Stop creating these illusions with no fact and no truth to it. Stop assuming and accusing. Be real with what you are saying. As real as possible. Be real. Be real with what you're saying because you're being real to yourself. Why not be real to yourself and honest with yourself before you open your mouth and start firing away, becoming verbally abusive? And then later on, this is why you apologize. You say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that. I don't know where I was at. I don't know what happened. Something got over me. Something came over me. Yeah, you became possessed. And when you become possessed in a moment, you now have to find an exorcist. And it has to perform an exorcism on you. Your exorcist, if you become possessed by a personality and behavior in the moment, that's a possession. Your exorcist, to exercise that with a form of exorcism, is your awareness. The awareness is your exorcist. See? It clears that static in your mind. You become aware that you're thinking the same things. And you're thinking these same things at the same time. And you're thinking these things at the same time in these same places with the same person. You have to start to realize that it is just a cycle. And the reason why you become so overwhelmed in the moment with anger and frustration, fear, and frustration, anger, and madness is because You are a moment being, and the moment is the only thing which truly exists. So anything that comes there, any thought that clicks, any attention that you put on that thought and turn into a thinking pattern, it takes over your moment because you are a moment being, so it becomes the moment. But it doesn't mean that it is the moment to begin with and ever was the moment to begin with. But things have to stay alive in your moments, and it has to keep your attention on it in order for it to live and thrive through you. Once you shift your attention away from it, it dies. And if it was real, take your attention from it. It should still be there, right? If it was a real thing, why can't you redirect your attention and shift your attention away from it and it can still be there? Why are you keeping your attention on it so much, for so long, so strong? Why are you staying in the moment of this thing? You know why? Because it's a dead thing. Without your moment and your attention, it dies from starvation of attention without participation of your moments. Stop holding on to past things. You're not a past thing, so why hold on to a past thing if you are not a past thing to begin with? Yes, you accumulate history, but you're not a past thing.